to our last session, or one of our last sessions of the MojaCom 29 conference. Thank you all for attending. I know it's been a long 3 days, and I appreciate you being here today. Today we're going to be presenting on this pilot project with LEI-based merchant payments initiation. And I'm going to be presenting. My name is Ololade Ashusaya. I'm a business relationship manager at Glyph. And my colleague will be co-presenting with me. She will be doing the demo virtually. Shushita, if you're with us, could you say hello to our participants?
Hello everyone.
Hello, thank you, Shushita. So now that Shushita is here, we're ready to go. Okay, this is our pretty much the agenda of the presentation today, and yeah, I'm going to take you through, and for the demos, Shushita is going to take you through those parts. So, I'm first going to introduce the work stream. So basically, the work stream, we've been working on it for a few months, and we started earlier this year. And the work stream is the integration of LEI in the Muja payment system. So we're going to demonstrate the practical use of the LEI in payments by integrating the LEI, global LEI system database into the Muja payment system. And then we're going to also showcase a proof of concept where the merchant identity is confirmed via QR codes. And we hope that this would be a foundation for regulated scaling and also use of the LEI in payment systems, especially with evolving policy and frameworks around the LEI and payments. So before I go into the whole pilot, I always like to explain what is the LEI. It's basically a lifelong identifier that is owned by a legal entity. It's a global identifier, and it's unique to a legal entity or a business entity or a merchant in the case of Muja systems. And it's unique to this entity. And I like to say that the LEI answers the question of who is who and who owns who on a global basis. Everybody needs to be identified in wherever system or wherever you are. And of course, business entities have national registrations and national systems of being identified. And then what you'd see on the screen is basically an LEI for a merchant. And as you can see, the LEI number is in red. It's a 20-character alphanumeric code. And basically, the other things you see there is the actual information about this legal entity. You can see its local or national registration number, and you can also see that there's other mapping information. So it's mapped to other identifiers such as S&P Global, and it's there. You also have basic information about this identity, like its legal name and also its address. And it's validated against these public registration authorities globally. And yeah, that is basically what an LEI is. And we're using the LEI in merchant payments because it has many use cases for identity verification, for pre-validation, fraud. Sorry, I went back. Yeah, there we are. For pre-validation and confirmation of payee, for merchant authentication, and also for fraud prevention. The LEI is also interoperable, so we are using it for its interoperability, especially in cross-border payments, and also it aligns with many standards, and it can be integrated with many different payment formats. The LEI also has regulatory and compliance oversight, AML and KYC alignment. Can also be used for transaction traceability and regulatory reporting across different systems. Basically, now I'll take you through the process flow of our pilot and how a merchant can use the LEI to register, and eventually we'll take you through the process flow of how an LEI can be used in the payment flow. So the first thing would be, as part of the registration, a DFSP would integrate the LEI into its system and to streamline it to the merchant data population. So a merchant provides its details and the LEI and other registration details to the DFSP. This information is then validated through with the Glyph API, which would be connected to it, and the data would be retrieved, and then a merchant record would be created. And this identity would be, once it's successfully validated, would be stored and inputted and saved with other merchant registry details. And then the QR code would be provided to the DFSP, to the merchant. And now I'm going to hand over to my colleague Shushita, who's going to take us through the flow of registration of a merchant with the LEI code.
Thank you, Lola. I'll just share my screen. So I'll be going through the first phase of the demonstration, which is registering the merchant into the Moduloop merchant registry. So here I am at Merchant Acquiring System portal. It is basically a place where we can we can initiate the registration of a merchant at Moduloop. So I will log in as the DFSP admin first. And yeah, let me fill these up. All right. Okay, so I've logged in as the DFSP admin, as you can see, and here is the merchant registry form I was talking about. So I'll be registering the merchant. The name of the merchant is Bamburi Cement PLC, and we'll have to provide a couple of details like the business details, the location information, the owner information, etc. So let's start with the business information. So here is the name and the LEI. The merchant type is small shop, number of merchants, merchant category. All right, the merchant category is wholesale of wood, construction material, etc. The currency is Kenyan shillings. So yeah, this is with the business details. Let's move on. So next is the location type. The location is a physical location, and I'll also fill in some other details like the street name, the postal code, country is Kenya, and township is Nairobi. All right, let's proceed with this as well. Okay, the merchant location is saved, and the owner of this merchant is Amson's Group. So we fill in that. And for testing purposes, I am giving in a random identifier over here for the sake of testing. All right, the contact person can be the same as business owner. So let's review submission. We have these merchant details filled in. All the basic details are covered, especially the name and the LEI, which are the main fields. Apart from that, we have location information, business owner information, etc. Let's submit the form. Okay, the form is successfully submitted. And if we go over to the merchant records, in all merchant records, and here is our merchant, Bamburi Cement PLC. There are a couple of fields over here, the name, the LEI, and also some other information displayed. The last field is interesting. It's called last verification. It displays that it's verified, and this actually indicates whether the merchant information has been validated with the Glyph API. So the verified field over here shows that all the merchant details are correct against the Glyph API. It also shows a timestamp, which indicates when this validation happened. The other field here is registration status, which is still under review. So we'll have to approve this merchant in order to make payments to it. So I will log out from here and log in back to the merchant acquiring portal, this time as the DFSP operator. Okay. Okay, so I've logged in as a DFSP operator. And if we go to merchant records and then pending merchant records, here is our merchant, Bamburi Cement PLC. I'll just select it and approve. So yeah, it says that the merchant is approved. If we go to alias generated records, we can find the merchant over here. So since it's present in alias generated records, it means that it is successfully registered into the merchant registry oracle. The registration status changed to approved, and now the merchant is available for lookups through modulo switch. So yeah, that's it for the first demonstration. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sushita. And now I'll take you through the next process where we're going to go through the flow of the LEI when it's integrated into. We're going to take you through the flow of the LEI being integrated in the QR code. Can we go back to the meeting deck? Okay. Okay, thank you. So as I said, we're going to the flow where the payment is initiated with the LEI embedded in the QR code. So as part of the payment flow, this payer will scan the QR code and the merchant details will be displayed and the payment confirmation would be would go through. So the payer scans the QR code, retrieves the LEI and the payment routing information, and then the payer confirms the merchant details and the payer confirms their payment amount, and then the payment goes through. And Sushita is going to take us through the flow of the actual payment with the LEI embedded in the QR code. Can we switch to Sushita's screen?
Yeah, thanks for that. Thank you again. So for the demonstration, I'm here at Modulo Core Test Harness and go to Demos, LEI Merchant Payments Demo. So for instance, let's say I have to transfer some amount of money to the pay, to Bamburi Cement PLC. So here on the screen, you can see two entities, the payer and the pay. The payer in this case is myself, Suchita Prakash. I'm registered at a bank called Pink Bank, and I have an account number. The pay is Bamburi Cement PLC with a registered LEI. So the payment can be initiated in two ways. We can have a QR code scan, or we can also manually enter the merchant ID. The QR code contains the LEI and the name of the merchant. So let's go with the first option, scanning the QR code. Right. Okay. So the payer then retrieves the LEI from the QR code and then submits it to the Modulo switch. The Modulo switch then internally performs a lookup to the registry oracle and returns the merchant details to the payer. The payer then gets a chance to confirm the name, the LEI, even the amount and the currency of payment. For instance, let's say I will transfer 120 Rwandan francs. So after this, I can confirm the payment and initiate the payment. Over here now, the modulo switch performs the quoting phase and the transfers phase. At the quoting phase, transaction details like the transaction details are agreed upon, and after that is agreed, it goes on the transfers phase where the money is transferred to the pay account instantly. So yeah, after that we can see a confirmation of the payment on both the screens of the payer and the payee. And this includes the transaction ID, the amount, and some other information crucial to the payment. So yeah, thank you. This is how we can transfer. This demonstrates a P2B payment scenario wherein a person can transfer amount to a business or a registered merchant. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sushita. Can we have a round of applause for Sushita? So that's basically the pilot that we've been working on. And the next steps of our pilot is that the first phase we've completed. So we've divided the overall pilot project into two phases. Phase one is complete, the technical model that shows payments routing using the LEI, and the embedding the LEI in the QR code so that it can be used to initiate payments easily and securely. Phase two is our intention is to have the merchant details captured and submitted to the LEI system for registration. So a merchant registers and and the data of the merchant is validated, and it is, if it's fine and it's valid, it is added to the LEI database, and an LEI is issued to the specific merchant. And we hope that this will create a verifiable and standardized identity for every business that can be used globally. We also hope at some point that we will also integrate the LEI into the ISO 20022 payment format for formatted payment messaging. And this is also so that we have a transparent and interoperable payment system that is standardized and globally identified. Thank you for your time and attention to our pilot, and if you have any questions, please feel free.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to ask, for countries where there is already an interoperability P2B systems, that means merchants already have their codes. How can the both codes be linked? Because obviously merchants would like to remain locally with the codes they are familiar with, and then internationally be able to benefit from the LEI. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that question. So I think in one of my first slides, I showed something about I showed the actual LEI record. So the LEI record the LEI code does not replace local identifiers for businesses. What it does is that it creates a standard system that is interoperable globally, most specifically for cross-border payments. So I'd like you to think of the LEI as, for example, as an individual, I have a passport, and I have a national ID card. I might travel, and if I travel and I show my national ID card in like another airport, let's say in China, they don't really know what the information is or what it says. But if I show my passport, that is globally recognized because it has all the globally agreed upon details or information that should be on a passport to identify that who I am. So we like to use the acronym for that. We like to say that the LEI is more like a global passport that allows you to use this identifier everywhere around the world. And also in tandem with your local identifier, because for you to get an LEI, it has to be verifiable with your local identity or local identity systems in your country or jurisdiction. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Thank you for the wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
So, in the European Union, there is a very, I would say, a consensus around LEI adoption, which is already becoming part of EU regulation. And based on the FATF Regulation 16 and the newly released guideline, LEI will become mandated or mandatory by 2030. So my question is, what is GLIVE strategy for Africa?
Thank you very much for that question. Our strategy for Africa, we've really started working on it a lot this year, and we've been working especially with regulators because we see that the LEI uptake is really, it's more considered important or recognized when the regulators of a jurisdiction or of a country actually support the LEI and share information and encourage different businesses to incorporate their LEI, for example, in their payment systems, in their KYC systems, so banks, international finance bodies, when they use the LEI, they find that it's more efficient for their system. So our strategy is to work with regulators and have regulators and pitch this to the regulators, help them see the benefits of the LEI in their systems, and also to support payments and international trade. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for the insightful presentation. Mine is just to request that probably as you're trying to engage the different countries in Africa, you move with speed. I'm saying this because I'm looking at Malawi, where initiatives are almost at an advanced level, where the Registrar General, they have digitized their systems and processes, and currently merchants, businesses, and so forth, they are being configured into the system, given unique identifiers and so forth. And if they are not using any standards that are going to align to what LEI is doing, then it means that whatever efforts that they are putting in place, they will have to redo again, and that is a cost for them and time wasted and so forth. So for me, it's just to request that those engagements, they happen with speed. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much for your feedback. Any other questions? If you do have any other questions, feel free to meet me after this session. I'm very open to hearing your questions, your thoughts, or if you want me to explain something in more detail, I'm here for you. Thank you so much for your time.